Number 1.
I'm a 22-year-old male. I lived in a pretty weird part of Sydney. Not overly dangerous, but a lot of druggies and weirdos who can really creep you out late at night, which is when this took place. I had just gotten off the train and started my 10-minute walk home. It was cold and it was late, almost midnight, so I was moving quick to get home. I was catching up to this guy who was dressed up in a big bomber jacket and was singing to himself. I just figured he was another local oddball and kept walking along next to him, wishing I'd remembered my headphones because his singing was trashy. He and I walked along about a meter or two apart, and at some point, a woman about my age came out of a side street carrying a bunch of books. We were all walking together in a nice, awkward sort of situation as this guy slowly sung, when suddenly he piped up and said to the girl in a creepy, raspy voice,
"Excuse me, but why are you carrying a book about Bikram yoga?"
The girl responded politely that she was studying to be a yoga instructor. The guy stated that he was in fact a yoga instructor, and they struck up a slow and slightly uncomfortable conversation. Initially, I was just relieved he wasn't talking to me. I'm not a tough guy at all, and confrontations freak me out, so I was glad I didn't have to speak to him. I kept walking just ahead of them though, and listening to their conversation. I did begin to notice that the guy seemed to know very little about yoga, and as they continued to talk, his questions got stranger. He was asking what she was up to, if she lived with friends or alone. I decided to walk a bit slower, so I stayed close to them in case anything went wrong or the guy tried anything. I had no idea what I'd do if push came to shove. I just felt it was the right thing to do. So this all went on for another 5 minutes or so, and I was getting close to my street. The girl was obviously uncomfortable and just wanted the conversation to end. I was almost at my corner, and feeling my job as a gentleman was done, I decided to just take one look over my shoulder before I left them. I looked over my shoulder and stopped mid-stride. The guy was walking with the girl on his right, and in his left hand, obscured from her view, he was holding a knife. I stopped and stood there like an idiot. There was no one else around, just us three now standing still, and the guy looked at me and shook his head, giving me a "just walk away buddy" kinda look, with anger in his eyes. Then I almost jumped when I heard a car horn, and I looked across the street to see a parked, dark blue car with a man in the driver's seat. He too was shaking his head at me with that sort of look that said, "Get out of here before something bad happens." This was a joint effort, and thinking back, I can remember headlights following us for most of this. I just hadn't taken any note of it. It seems this was a joint effort by two creepers. My heart was racing, and there I was, standing in between this completely fucked up situation, and it seemed like I was the only thing preventing this kidnapping, or whatever it was, from going down, and I, with nothing resembling a weapon. I felt very, very useless indeed. Not a word had been said so far, and in my terror, my mind flashed to something I once read about you should do if you're attacked by a bear. I guess it was flight or fight, and I picked fight. I raised my arms up to try to look bigger and started screaming like an animal. I must have seemed completely deranged, but I got right up into the guy's face, and I still don't know how this worked, but it must have been so shocking that he just bolted, ran to the car, and got in and sped away, all of it happening in the space of 10 seconds or so. After that, we called the police. The girl thanked me profusely, but after all of this, I couldn't even remember what the guy looked like, nor the number plate of the car. I just couldn't believe how fortunate it all was. I had forgotten my headphones so I could hear the exchange, the fact that I turned around for one last look, and that the whole screaming and waving my arms around actually worked. I shudder to think what could have happened to the young yoga student if everything hadn't worked out.
Number 2.
I will never know why or when it started. I'm glad for that, I guess. I moved into my very small apartment in February last year. My landlord, Olivia, was a sweet old woman who would cook too much and bring me the leftovers. She was great to me, even after telling her my problem. I'm very antisocial, but she didn't mind renting to a reclusive young girl who reminded her of her daughter. Every few weeks she would knock on my door then leave, letting me know she was leaving something for me. I loved that. Not even my family would cook so well. The next morning I would always wash and leave her empty containers outside my door, and by an hour or so she would take them back again. My other neighbors seemed fine, but I never talked to them or visited them. I worked from home, so anytime I was ever forced to go out, I would rush out into my apartment, avoiding an uncomfortable situation. I loved living alone. It was everything I hoped for. I could just breathe. By April, though, I started noticing things were not right. Things were moving or simply disappearing. I was convinced it was just anxiety, caused by my new medication that had a side effect and would make me more drowsy, and the move to the new place had affected me. I took naps during the day, and so I eventually stopped caring, until one incident doubled my paranoia. Olivia had brought me some sort of Greek tossed salad and dressing for lunch one day, and I enjoyed it with Netflix. I fell asleep and woke up that evening at 5 p.m. I noticed that my bedding on the opposite side of me was disturbed. I only sleep on the right side. Always. Even more, it felt warm. My first thought was that I must have rolled around a lot, but I knew it was too odd to dismiss. I got up and searched my apartment, gripping my phone with 911 typed in. Nothing else was disturbed. Everything was exactly like it should be. I let it go. For the next few weeks, everything was normal, except for the occasional misplaced shoe or drawn back shower curtain. I thought about telling someone, my parents, maybe Olivia, but if it's not life or death, I didn't want to reach out to anyone. I wasn't scared. I was nervous, maybe a little stubborn, but I stayed. I'm not gonna let some stupid anxiety ruin my lovely, lonely world, I thought. Eventually, May came, and it was getting worse. My underwear, toothbrush, hell, even my food was being misplaced. Every time I woke up, there was a strange odor in the air. I finally realized this wouldn't go away by ignoring it. I called my mom and begged her to come stay a few days. When they got home, I told them everything. Saying it out loud solidified any creepy suspicions. That weekend, my dad went to my apartment, and what he found terrified him. Someone had written, "Come back, baby, please," all over the walls. He ran out and called the police. There was no one living in my apartment, but someone definitely had access besides me. The investigation revealed that a man, Henry, the son of my landlord Olivia, was in a supposed relationship with me. They showed me his confession on tape. He admitted to coming into my apartment every night and every day with his mother's extra key. He claims we were in love and that he had my permission. He drugged his mother's food she left out for me, causing my drowsiness, and falling asleep so that he could come in and watch me sleep, touch my hair, and kiss my shoulder. The leftovers I had in the fridge were tested and confirmed. I was absolutely horrified and disgusted. A man I never knew existed collected my drain hair, clothes, and trash and practically lived in my apartment for more than 4 months. Number 3. I grew up in Indiana, and when I was 17, I got my first car and started exploring. I lived somewhere pretty suburban, but if you drive an hour south, you're pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Tons of cornfields and abandoned houses. My friend and I started driving out there a lot, and started going to these abandoned houses and exploring them. My dad bought a camera for the family a bit earlier, so I would often take that and shoot some photos of the houses. We got really good at finding the houses too. We looked out for normal signs like broken mailboxes, long grass, heavy wear on the houses, etc. But sometimes we were still worried about whether or not some of the places we went to were in fact abandoned. The best houses don't look as obvious from the outside. Like if a house looks like it's in a decent condition, it's more likely to have stuff inside of it. If it's super obvious, like all broken windows, missing doors, etc., kids probably already found it and spray painted it and broke everything inside. We were really respectful about it and wanted to explore places other people hadn't, so we looked for more subtle places. I remember my friend and I were coming back from a concert in Indianapolis in the summer. We spent the night at my cousin's place in the city, since the drive back was really long. We left during the day and started taking alternate routes back to try to find any cool places to explore. We were driving down this long dirt road, one of those that doesn't even have a name, and is often called like Country Road 3282 or whatever. After a while, we see a long dirt driveway come out to the left, and in the distance we see this really broken house. We pulled into the driveway and drove down. It was probably a quarter-mile long. There was a big "No Trespassing" sign, which usually means the place is definitely abandoned. I know that sounds pretty stupid, but it was something that made us way more confident that a house was in fact abandoned. We parked and walked up to it. The door was falling off and the windows were cracked. Inside the house, everything was thrown around. It had that normal, musty, abandoned house smell, but it smelled stronger. Like more rotten, kind of. And it was just really heavy. I don't know how to describe it. It was really weird. I figured since most of the stuff in the house was thrown around and moldy and rotten, it was probably just that. There was this tiny room to the side, but it was completely dark, so we walked right past it. We walked towards the stairs and started stepping over broken glass, like a lot of it. It's common to see broken glass on the ground, but a huge area was completely covered in it. It made loud cracks as we walked. I started feeling worried. We walked up the stairs, which were also covered in glass. At the top, there was a long hallway. 2 rooms were opened on the side, and at the end was a closed door. The 2 rooms were mostly empty. I saw a bunch of garbage in one room. Black hoses, jars, Coke bottles with tubing. We kept walking and went up to the door and opened it. Suddenly, the smell hit us hard. It was this super strong chemical/rotting odor. And then we spot him. There was a guy in the room. He was really frail, super gaunt. He had a really baggy clothes and sores all on his face. He was holding a rifle and staring right at us. I saw some beakers, bottles, and tubing on this table that looked like a really shitty science fair project. Eventually, he lifted his gun up, and we sprinted out. We got out of the house, started the car, and drove off. We called the police, and it turns out he and a friend were squatting the place and running a meth lab. The police found the one guy upstairs, and the other guy was in this really dark room downstairs. He heard our car come and was hiding in there as he watched us. I have no clue why he didn't try to stop us. He was probably just tweaking out really hard. The broken glass was there to make a noise to alert them when someone else was inside. I feel so lucky to be alive and safe because they could have easily killed us and nobody would know where we were. And they would have been safe. I haven't gone exploring abandoned houses ever since that incident. Hey, what's up guys? I just wanted to give you guys some quick channel updates. So first of all, as some of you may know, I'll be posting new videos on Sundays and Thursdays from now on. And also, as you may have noticed with this video, I got a new mic recently. So hopefully the quality is at least a little bit better. You know, I'm still learning how to use it, but at least it's somewhat better. Also, I want to take a quick moment to thank you guys so much for all the support you've shown so far. I mean, I never really thought that people would be that interested in, you know, scary stories that I liked so much that I wanted to share it with people. So, yeah, just thank you guys, and, it's been a really pleasant surprise. So, I just want to take that moment to thank you. So, please, if you like the video, feel free to like it, comment, any suggestions especially. Also, by the way, so I've taken into consideration some of your guys' recommendations, and as you can see, I probably tried to slow down the pace a little, as a few of you recommended, and then I'm trying to implement, different voices for the creepy guys in the stories. So I did that in this video once, but I'll try to implement it more as we go along. So I just thank you guys for all the suggestions and the support. So yeah, peace.